Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you've been following me for a long time on here, you probably remember back in the day, we were just trying to figure out how long it was. It was at least a few years ago when Carly and I made a video together and she did kind of like an advice for art school applicants for how to put together a portfolio. So I will link that on the screen and in the description if you want to see that video. So today we are here because Carly's visiting and I just thought it would be fun to do kind of a casual chat video. And I asked you guys on Instagram like last week, or by the time this goes up, it probably will be 2 weeks ago for you. I asked you for questions that you would have for Carly. And by the way, I don't think I said this yet, but Carly is also an illustrator and primarily a tattoo artist. So I showed some of her work in my Insta stories and then asked what kind of questions you guys would have for her or for us to talk about. So we are just gonna pull those up and go through those today.
I'm something. I'm getting over losing my voice.
Oh right, yes, I was supposed to say that. Carly had the flu really bad last week and kind of has a little bit of a scratchy throat still. So here we are. I'm going to read some questions. So this is from Sarah Elliott Illustration. Have you used an agent before? And if so, how was your experience? I think that is probably for both of us.
I've never used an agent. I don't know why tattoo artists would use an agent. But absolutely understand it for illustrators.
Yeah.
We have a manager who's really great at our studio and she helps us book appointments. She helps if people are coming in looking for a particular style, she'll be able to like match them up with us.
An artist. So it's kind of like your version of an agent.
Yeah. But I don't.
And they handle all the billing and everything too, right?
Yeah, we'll be like, all right, go up front. Here's your total.
Yeah.
That's nice. Kind of nice because sometimes it's hard to be like, and now you owe $900.
Yes.
Like that's
it's nicer to have an agent,
yes,
so to speak,
to be like, here's what you owe instead of the artist being like, please pay me this much money because this is what I deserve.
Yes. Well, and if you follow this channel for long, you know that I do not have an agent and I never have had an agent. I have recently I've had an agency reach out to me, but I didn't feel like it was a particularly good fit, so I didn't go that direction, and things are going well enough. I mean, I do agree with Carly, it's a pain to have to deal with money stuff, but overall I feel like I don't want to sign with an agency unless it seems like it would really be value added and a really good fit. I don't have an agent. I think it is, from what I understand, most common for illustrators who are in children's book, doing children's book illustration. A lot of those folks have either literary agents or illustration agents. And then as far as like editorial and advertising illustrators go, I feel like you meet just as many that don't have agents as that do. So, and having an agent is no guarantee of getting work either. So a lot of agencies won't even take you on unless you are already bringing in a good amount of work on your own, in which case you have to think about how worthwhile it is to sign with the agency because then they take a cut. So next question from Inez Kujit Naive Art. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. How long does it take to make a tattoo in general?
How long does it take to make art in general?
Yeah.
Like that's
like just give a rough range. Like what's
totally
the fastest tattoo you could do?
I've done a 2-minute tattoo before.
A 2-minute tattoo. Okay.
It depends on the size, the detail, the location of the tattoo.
Would you say you have an average appointment length?
No.
Yeah.
It takes what it takes to get the piece done.
So anywhere from 2 minutes to like multiple sittings of
absolutely
6 hours.
Yeah.
Sometime. Yeah.
Some people think that they can get a sleeve done in one session, and that's a huge amount of work.
Yeah.
Some people need. Sometimes you need healing in between a tattoo session
to get the ink to take.
Yeah. If you're doing like a cover up or something a little more complex, you might need a break for your body to heal in between applying like the line work and then the color.
Right. That makes sense.
And then everybody's skin tattoos differently as well. Mm-hmm. So, and it just depends on genetics, on how hydrated you are, on your diet, the sleep you had, are you sick, are you well? Mm-hmm. So many different factors.
Would you say like, doing a simple tattoo usually takes more time than doing a simple drawing?
I don't know.
Is that a weird question?
I think there's more pressure with a
Yeah.
simple tattoo because there's less like room for error.
Yeah.
You notice any inconsistencies, any any variation within the tattoo itself.
Yeah.
So there's a little more pressure to
Get it right. Yeah. Totally.
For a more simple tattoo.
From Siege of the Fairy Fields, how do you handle BO? Are your clients good about washing out beforehand? I would never have thought of this question.
It's a good question. That's a legit,
Okay.
that's a legit issue. I keep peppermint essential oil in my in my cabinet, and
oh man,
I usually like go out into the front space and talk to my clients before like bringing them back into my studio.
So you can see if they smell bad?
Not like that's not why, but but there's always like I meet somebody outside and then they get to come in the room with me. But if they're stinky, I'll just take like essential oil and I'll put it on my fingertip and I'll just like rub it around my nostrils.
Oh, that's intense.
And it helps, but because it's peppermint,
it hurts, doesn't it?
It doesn't hurt, but it there's a lot of sniffing. It feels like your nose is running. But I know like morticians will use like Vicks Vapor Rub and they'll like put it on their upper lip or something. There are ways to deal with smelly people without letting them know that you know that they're smelly.
Oh my god.
And
you think for the most part are people pretty good about washing?
People are pretty good usually. Yeah. Sometimes people come straight from the gym and
Who does that?
Some people. It's like how it's nice to brush your teeth before you go to the dentist or shower before you go to the doctor. Yeah. It's nice to shower before you see a tattoo artist.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You should be clean. You should be clean going in.
Noted.
Yeah.
Next question is from T.A. Montoya. What was your biggest tattoo mistake and the one that you're the most proud of? So think like mistake on one hand and then most tattoo that you're most proud of on the other hand.
Honestly, mistakes happen all the time in tattooing.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, constantly. And it's a mark of a good tattoo artist that they can handle their mistakes. I make like little mistakes all the time with line work, with color even. But you find a way to make it work. And I think that's true in illustration too.
Oh yeah.
I definitely learned how to cover my mistakes, and at least if I couldn't like totally correct something or erase it, then I could incorporate it and make the piece look consistent with the mistake.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important skill as an artist.
Mm-hmm. So it's iterative the same way that, I mean, even though you can't like completely start from scratch, it is sort of like back and forth.
There is, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, if you make one line a little bit thicker than another, there's a little bit of a wobble. You have to correct it by like adding thickness to that line, but so that line doesn't stand out,
then you need to add it somewhere else.
Yeah, you have to add it somewhere else.
Interesting. Okay.
You make it look intentional.
Okay.
There are ways to correct.
So do you have a biggest one that pops into mind?
Not really.
Well, that's good.
The most recent one was I was doing colored outline and black outline within the same tattoo, and I got maybe 70% through the tattoo, and I made one of the colored outlines black. And I thought it was a different part of the tattoo.
Oh no!
I had a printed out reference, but it was in black and gray, and it should have been in color. And I made it work.
Yeah.
But
did they notice?
No.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we've got a little more to do still on that. So we'll go back into it again. But
that's nerve-wracking.
It is nerve-wracking, and it's like, man, I did so well up to this point, and like. You can't get down on yourself in the moment. You have to just keep going.
Right. You don't even have any time to recover, and you can't let them know that you.
No, you can't let them know. You just gotta keep going, and you gotta cover your mistakes and you fix them as you go.
Oh geez.
I have had people suddenly like move or flinch.
Oh man.
And those are the most frustrating wobbles.
Yeah.
Because like it's not your fault as an artist.
Yeah.
But like now you have to deal with
The fallout.
the fallout.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll let the client know when that happens.
Yeah, if it's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Especially if it's on them.
Yeah. And what about one that you're the most proud of?
That's hard. That's always changing.
I feel like that too. People are like, what's your favorite piece of art? I'm like, what's my favorite child?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love them all. Even the ones that are really challenging or that I wasn't
especially those,
that proud of at the time. Like, I'll feel like tender towards them, if that makes sense. I'm like, oh, that piece, or
I learned a lot with you.
Yeah,
you're okay.
exactly.
You did the best you could.
You did the best you could. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. It's all a process, and
Yeah.
you're always growing. And
Yep.
yeah, I think I have the most fun with like silly tattoos, just because they're something I don't get to do very often.
Yeah, those kind of stuff are serious.
Yeah. Or like beautiful or cool, or
Yeah.
I really like ones that like there's a weird expression, or like I love animals. I don't know.
Yeah. That's fun.
That's all.
Okay, so before we go on to the next question, we've just been laughing because neither of us can remember if I said that Carly was my sister. If I did, sorry for repeating myself. If I didn't, yes, Carly's my younger sister. So that's why we made a video together a few years ago, and that's why she's here visiting, and we're making another one now. So yes, she is my baby sister. All right, so next question is from Artie Subu. How to design a tattoo for oneself.
I think leaving the design element to your artist is pretty important.
Yeah.
But like conceptually coming up with your own tattoo, things you like, things that have meaning to you. It's really easy to just go on Pinterest or like any image search, Tumblr. It's easy to find that inspiration and be like, I think I could like that on myself. But a tattoo is so personal, and why wouldn't you take that opportunity to make it personal to you? Some people feel like they need to have this huge amount of meaning, and it's different. It's different for everyone. Some people just like tattoos based on aesthetics. It can be really overwhelming to figure out what you want for your first tattoo. But looking at art that you like is good. I don't know.
That's helpful.
Hard.
That's helpful. So drawing inspiration kind of from what you like and what it has meaning to you in your own life, and then trying to leave the actual, coming up with the concept that way, and then leaving the actual design to the artist that you choose, which totally makes sense because you'd be choosing the artist based off of their style. So
well, you
hope you should
be choosing the artist based on their style.
Yeah.
You should find there's so many artists on like just Instagram.
What's a good hashtag to look under?
A lot of like your own state. Tattoo studios near you. It's pretty easy to track down a studio and then figure out who's working there, and then see if you like their artwork.
Yeah.
That's probably my biggest piece of advice.
Yeah.
I think as long as you find an artist whose work that you like and whose style you like, you're gonna wind up with a tattoo that you're happy with. Don't focus on over designing your own tattoo. Your artist is gonna know what's gonna look good. They're gonna tell you what'll look good. And they'll tell you what'll last too. A lot of people don't know the limitations of tattoos, and again, it varies from the location where it is, the size, how you want it executed, even. Just talking with a tattoo artist directly is the best way to get
a good sense for all that.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. And sorry about the changing light, you guys. It's a mostly overcast day, but every once in a while the clouds are blowing by and the sun comes through. So we are working with it. Next question is from Druid Donan. Is it difficult to learn to tattoo? What would be the first step?
It is difficult to learn to tattoo. the first step would be to know how to draw.
And let's say you know how to draw. What would be the first step? Or you're pretty good with your drawing skills. What would be the first step?
If you're pretty good with your drawing skills, make sure you have like a pretty decent portfolio
of your drawings.
Yeah. And it's good to show variation as much as it is
in terms of subject matter.
Yeah. That way, like, your style can come through no matter what you're drawing. It's probably the hardest part is to just find a studio that's willing to apprentice you.
Yeah, and so that's technically the first step is becoming an apprentice.
It's becoming an apprentice. Okay. And apprenticing is not the same as going to a tattoo school.
Are there tattoo schools?
There are, but they're...
Ugh. You wouldn't recommend it?
I wouldn't recommend it.
So Carly has an illustration degree, right?
I do.
Yeah, illustration. I couldn't remember if it was illustration or painting. Yeah. Carly has an illustration degree from Mass Art. So after she graduated from Mass Art, then she went and apprenticed at 2 different tattoo studios. So it sounds like that's what you would recommend others do as well. If you're confident in your drawing skills, trying to shop your portfolio around and find a tattoo shop that you can apprentice at.
And it's hard to go to places just like cold turkey. So if you're already getting tattooed at a studio and you like their artwork, like that's a nice way to sort of like get in the door.
What was the hardest part for you to learn initially? Like what's the hardest part when you're making the jump from
that skin is not the same as paper.
Skin is not the same as paper, yeah.
Skin is not like paper or canvas or linoleum or any other material or medium. It's you don't have control over it after it leaves your studio. You don't have control over how that person is going to take care of their tattoo while they're healing.
Okay, the shaky pencil, this is the last one I think for you. How did you develop your style?
Time.
Yeah.
I really like line work. And I think that's the thing that follows through most of my art. Is like consistent line work and line weight variation. The more you draw anything, the more familiar you are with it, and like the more it's just like integrated into your visual vocabulary to like regurgitate later. I think it's just working consistently in the same media or even different medias. You'll see style follow through, but being really comfortable with a particular medium and just
time. Style is a result of practice and time.
Yeah. And doing what you like. I look at other artists' work all the time and draw inspiration from that. It just happens.
It's kind of, I've used on this channel before, I've talked about the analogy. I've used the analogy that I think style is kind of like handwriting, where when you first start learning to write, it's very shaky and wobbly, but eventually with years and years of practice, it becomes something that you don't even think about. It's just the way that it comes out of your body. Like it just it flows from your hand that way. And you can't, and if you try to do it a different way, it's very self-conscious and labored and rigid. So I think style is very similar to that. And it's just years and years of practice and doing something over and over and over again. And eventually you'll start to... it kind of.
You'll pick it out.
I think it's the most interesting to me when it's like starting to happen, and it's just this feeling of like, oh, that feels right, or like that feels natural, or like you get glimpses of it first. It's not like one day you have it and one day you don't, or one day you don't have it and the next day you do. It's more like
you see it evolve.
You see it like
in the body of your work.
It starts coming out. You start doing the same kinds of things over and over again. At a certain point you'll realize it's so, and it's never completely rigid. Like even handwriting changes over a person's lifetime. So I think that's our thoughts on style. I will have something related to that actually for the answer to the next question. Xena Illustrations, as sisters, do you compare each other's artwork?
I mean, I have. Our brother tells a pretty good story about...
oh no, I don't know where this is going.
about like meeting a friend's mom for the first time, and he sees a lot of like the artwork in her home, and so he tells his friend's mom about Kendall and her artwork, and he's showing her, and she's like, oh. And then his friend mentions that he has another sister who's also an artist. And, this mom really liked Kendall's stuff.
Oh, no.
It's different. It's really different.
Yeah, our styles are very, very different. And I hopefully will have given Meg some images of Carly's artwork. Is that okay if I do that? Yeah. From her Instagram, which, by the way, if you're not following her on Instagram, you should. She's at Kali, C-A-H-H, 3 H's, Kali, L-Y.
Yes.
We'll put it on the screen in the description box. But so you'll be able to see we have very, very different styles. I mean, not just in subject matter. I mean, we're both figurative, or there are some similarities. But like Carly has a big emphasis on line work. I don't really do any line work at all. There are a lot of ways that we're very different, but so she liked my work, but
she did. And then he showed her some of my stuff from Mass Art, and she was just like, oh, they're so different. They're so different.
No.
But it's, I don't know. But his friend was like, yeah, isn't it so cool? So I don't know. It's different.
Moms like my artwork. So I don't compare myself to Carly really. I don't feel like anymore at all. I used to do it a lot, actually.
I used to do it
and like I feel like it was kind of I imagine during childhood, just because I'm 4 years older, so we were both like really into drawing mermaids and fairies and stuff, and so there was definitely a period of time when I could draw much better mermaids and fairies than you could. Yes. And you would just like watch me draw the mermaids and fairies.
So envious.
So envious. Which I was using Prismacolor colored pencils back then too, so that says something. And then when, like when I was going to school, like I've told my story on here a number of times, like I didn't go into college knowing, yes, I'm going to do art. I'm like, this is the thing for me. I kind of like stumbled into it. And then after school, I had a really hard time finding direction. And I had years where I didn't even draw at all. And Carly's just the opposite of that. Carly is...
At 14, I was like, I'm going to be an animator. And then I realized how much hard work that is.
Yeah.
And was like, I'll be an illustrator.
Yes.
And then even after that, I didn't want to do freelance illustration for my full-time job.
Yeah. But like you still had a huge amount of clarity at a young age, and like
about that I wanted a career in art.
So I mean, I've talked about this here too before, but like I feel like there are kind of two different types of artists. There are lots of ways to classify, but I think one classification is that like I feel like for artists, you either have somebody who is pretty clear, pretty direct, has a just really crystallized vision from relatively early on of what they're going to do, and they like go out and chase it. And then you have people who are more like me that have this like vague impulse or desire, but aren't really sure of what it is or how to express it, or what the next step to take should be. And so we're very different that way. Carly's always been more crystallized in her vision. And so I used to compare myself to that a lot. And then there was a period, like when she was in school and finishing up school, that was during the time that I was not doing any art, and was also really struggling because I had a lot of health stuff going on. And I remember like looking at stuff that she was doing and being like, oh, she's so much better than me. She's so much more talented. I could never do the things that she does. And that was kind of, I feel like the height for me of when I was comparing myself to you. And just feeling like really bad, mostly that I couldn't get it together to like decide and do one thing or another. So yeah, I did compare myself then. And I don't know, do you have
me, I think my peak of like comparing my art to your art, and our differences was like at like just the launch of like, of your illustration career.
Yeah.
And like seeing your success like slowly trickle in, and success being like all of your hard work that you put in. And it's like, that's all you were doing for so long was painting.
Yeah.
And that's all you could do for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's putting in the work and putting in the hours, and showing absolutely showing your work is a big part
Yeah.
of being an artist that I don't love.
Like putting it out there online.
Putting it out there. I have a hard time with it, and I get too self-critical. But I think my biggest pitfall as an artist is comparing myself to other people.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I think it's a really easy trap for me to fall into, and when I do, it's miserable, and
it's awful. It's the worst.
I'm never kind to myself, and like the only way you can measure your progress and your growth is through your own growth, seeing that in your artwork.
Yeah.
Which is why I really liked seeing your series of like Now and Then.
Oh yeah, from like back in the day.
Yeah. That's cool. I did one of those and then I never posted it.
Oh really?
Yeah.
You should. Now you need to post it.
It's hard.
It is. That's funny. I wouldn't have realized that was a struggle for you. I think because you seem like you don't care. And
I'm so protective of my art babies.
Yeah, your art babies. Yeah, I think it got easier for me to do that because I was at a place where I felt like I didn't have any other choice. Like, I don't think anybody ever, it always feels vulnerable to put something that you've made out wherever, whether you're showing just one other person or sending it to family and friends or putting it in a local gallery or putting it online, like for the whole world to see.
Wow.
I know, this is just something else. Yeah, so I think there's one last question, right? Yes, so it's the Bananina's studio. What do you learn from your sister and vice versa in art and life? I'm going to go first because I have talked about this on the channel before. I talked about it quite a bit in my art autobiography video, and I just am always mentioning Carly all the time. But Carly played a really pivotal role actually in me getting serious about art, or not even actually.
I think taking yourself seriously.
Getting not serious about art first, because part of I described that difference between the two of us where she was so directed and like seemed so sure and knew what she wanted to do, and I just was like never had that. And then when I had gotten sick and had to quit my job and was just stuck at home and really miserable, Carly was the one who gave me, she gave me a set of watercolor pencils and some paper, and said something about how if Henry Matisse could make art from bed, then I could too. Do you not remember saying that?
I don't remember saying that, but that's really sweet, and I hope in my heart that that's true.
Yeah.
I don't know if
you did say that. Yes.
Did I?
Yes.
I don't remember.
Where would I have come up with that other words? I didn't even know that Matisse was an invalid before that. An invalid. What a.
How a really ableist.
But that's how he would have. That's the language they would have used at the time. But anyway, Carly gave me this stuff, and I was like, all right, I'll make some stuff and I'll put it online, and that was the start in me realizing like what the real hurdle that I had to get over, which was that I was starting from a place of like every time I did art, like even throughout college, I was starting from a place of obligation rather than from a place of love. So everything that I did, I did love the process, and that was why I initially took it on as a major, was because I was like, oh, this is really fun. I can see that I can get better at this if I practice. But in terms of the subject matter and what I was actually trying to do or accomplish with my art, I always was like, well, it needs to be important. It needs to have something to say about society and the world. The concept needs to be deep and epic, and I have to express all of these things. And it wasn't like anytime there was that like little kind of small voice that was like, wow, this is so fun. This is so joyful. This feels so organic. Like I never would follow that. I always felt like, well, then that must be the easy way out, or that can't be like, yeah, that's not gonna lead anywhere. And I had around that same time, I had a conversation with Carly about like, well, what I really want to do is just draw food. I just think it would be kind of fun to draw food. And Carly was like, well, yeah, then why not? You should just draw food if it sounds fun to draw food. And it was crazy. Like I felt like I needed permission to do that, but that was the point when I was like, okay, yeah, I'll draw some food. And I learned through that you hear me saying this all the time. It is, and we were just talking about this earlier. It's all about practice. It's all about time. It's all about investment. It's all about the hard work. But if you don't have, this is going to sound so cheesy, if you don't have love to motivate you doing that, if you're not truly enjoying isn't the right word. Enjoying isn't the right word. If you're not, if love is a better word. Like if you're not really motivated by like that little spark, you're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to be able to spend hundreds and thousands of hours practicing, trying to get good if you don't have something that holds your heart there. Yeah, that just sounds.
It holds it has to hold your attention.
Yeah, it has to hold your attention. It has to be interesting. You have to love it. So I feel like I learned from that interaction and from Carly that the thing that you have to do, it's especially crucial at the beginning as a beginner, is to find out what really truly inspires you, what your art true love is. Because that's going to be it's not going to automatically make you good.
But it will help drive you. But it will help
drive you. It will help motivate you. And if your motivation is like, I ought to make this, and that's why I would even caution, like, a part of why I tend to put blinders on with respect to other artists is I will look at it and be like, oh, I want to make something like that. That's so cool. I want to make something like that. That's not inspiration. That's, at least for me, like that's envy. And that's like the opposite of inspiration. And so I had like all these ideas of the type of style that I wanted to have or the type of work that I felt like I should make, but it ended up actually being very different. And a lot of my art journey for me has been learning to love who I actually am as an artist and the kind of work that I actually make as an artist and what just comes naturally to me. So I hope that makes sense. But yeah, that's what I've learned from some of what I've learned from Carly. So thank you.
Yeah. I think we've talked about art since I was in college.
Yeah.
I remember being kids and drawing together all the time. But I think we've seriously bounced ideas off of each other and technique. Since
college.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Since at least 16 to 18.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think
more so in the last few years, I feel like.
Yeah. Absolutely. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Nothing. She learned nothing from me.
Nothing. No, I don't have any pivotal moments like you do.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a lot of it's a lot of just our talks, and sometimes I know you think this is sad, but sometimes I'll just watch your videos when I miss you.
Oh, I know, it makes me so depressed. Just give me a call.
It's a control thing, maybe. I don't know.
Pause, play.
It's just nice to experience you that way.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot from you, and I don't know. I totally copied, the fairies and mermaids that you would do.
You did.
And I was real envious of all those fairies.
They were pretty great. I'll have to see if I
good.
can find it.
They had a lot of really good accessories and
like the mermaid
pals,
and her pets, and
it's basically a doll.
Yes, it was like a drawing of a doll. Yeah.
I don't know. You're very encouraging and you're motivating, and I feel like when I am down about my art, I don't know. I think
I've tried to encourage you a lot more to put stuff out there.
Yeah.
And right now, very organic segue coming up. I'm helping you learn how to make a Skillshare class.
Hey, yes.
Yay!
It's happening.
Yeah, I've been on Carly for a while to
at least a year.
At least a year to try to put out a Skillshare class. So we're in the process of we're going to film it this week while she's here, and she has been already in the process of making the demo piece. It's going to be creepy, cute character design.
Driven.
In Procreate. So she's gonna talk through her process for ideating and coming up with the concept for a character, and then like how she actually gets the sketch down and then builds a color palette, and and so you'll get to see all of that and see her talk through it and everything. We're gonna
start to finish.
Yep. And once that is live, I will put a link in the description. I'll mention it again in another video once it's live too, but keep an eye out for a Skillshare class from Carly soon. One of the things I have taught her in
Yes, this is true. This is very true.
Thank you everybody for watching this video. Thank you to my patrons for sponsoring it. Thank you to Meg for doing the editing, and thank you to everybody who leaves comments. And if you do have comments and questions, you can leave those where you put the comments and questions in the comments box. I always say in the description box, but in the comments area. And remember to follow Carly on Instagram and give her lots of likes and nice comments and all of that. Yes, I think that is it. And we'll be back with, I'll be back with another more topical video next week. All right, hope everybody is having a great week, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.